right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session with the Peace Corps. It's Launch Your Federal Career, a step-by-step resume workshop. I am joined today by none other than Claudale Daniels. He is a recruiter with the Peace Corps and is going to be giving us a little insight into how to perfect your federal resume and apply for federal positions. My name is Anthony Hankerson. I go by Hank, and I am an employee engagement manager here in our career service department. We are happy to bring you more exciting sessions like this federal resume session with Claudel, and would like to also take the time to tell you that if you are looking for any other sessions or career development, please check out our career professional development page at WGU, which I'll drop in the chat. But also, all our sessions are recorded and placed on our YouTube channel. We have Claudel here today, who has joined us in the past, most recently during our Career Quest series for an informational session for the Peace Corps. He brings a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom into the area of recruiting. Claudel is a Navy veteran, and I am excited to give him the opportunity to speak to you about enhancing your resume, federal resume, and talking to you about any changes that you should look for in your resume writing. With that, Claudel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hank. You always got some amazing kind words. Thank you for having me and inviting me back for the fourth time. Thank you, Western Governors University, for having me back and giving me a platform to share my wisdom with everybody that's online today. Welcome to this day. As Hank said, my name is Claudale Daniels. I have over 35 years of working with the federal government, and I have a lot of wisdom when it comes to the federal government process and the federal resume, and I work with federal resumes on a regular basis as I'm processing individuals to serve as in Peace Corps, especially for Peace Corps response. So last time I was here and I conducted a federal resume workshop, I took everybody on a journey to USA Jobs and showed you how to navigate the website, showed you how important it is to look at the job announcements and make sure that your resume was reflective of the job announcement. Talk to you about your DD 214 and how, and for veteran members and or individuals that have served, how to use it to leverage your application. So I did a lot of things last time to try to show you the basics of what it was like to navigate that website, because if it's not like you sit around and we have training on a regular basis and they tell us how to take advantage of these websites and how to be successful. I mean, this is an opportunity for you to go look for a job, so I know that that is important, so that's why I like to try to share what I've learned and talk about it to give you guys some additional tips for your tool bag, so that when you apply for these positions, you can kind of know what to anticipate. So with that being said, I'm gonna get right back into it. So this time I wanted to go back and I just wanted to revisit why things have kind of stalled a little bit, and just bring it to the front so you can kind of understand why there's not a lot of jobs available on USA Jobs, or why the hiring process is taking so long. These are some of the key things that why the federal hiring has stalled in 2025. The extended hiring freeze from late 2025, they extended it into 2026. That's still ongoing right now. So that's impacted the amount of jobs that you see available on USA Jobs. In addition to that, the 1 in 4 hiring cap, slow onboarding, and increased competition. If you're a novice and you're not even paying attention, is nowhere you can find this information. You wouldn't even know anything about the 1 in 4 hiring cap. But what that means is agencies can only backfill or add positions for each 4 separations. So a person will have to resign or retire 4 people before they can even hire 1 individual. That's why it's taking so long for individuals to be able to be hired for positions, because there's no positions available based off of these rules that are being put in place. Strategic hiring committees added to bureaucracy. Partial government shutdown halted hiring authorities. Technical lockouts disrupted HR flow. And then, lack of individuals being there to be able to support these workflows. Massive attrition and slow post-freeze rebuilds. Reduced telework flexibility, increased turnover. These are the key areas that I've identified that's impacted the amount of jobs that's been available. And I don't see any anything happening over the next couple months that's going to impact or change that. This is going to be something that's going to happen over time. Once they lift the hiring freeze, and then once they start making adjustments to understanding, okay, these are the amount of individuals we need to hire. That's when we're going to see the change. But right now, it's going to be pretty stressful environment to go out and apply for these positions. That's why it's important to kind of know what's holding you up, so that when you apply, you putting your best foot forward and you putting a resume that's going to give you an opportunity. So let's talk about some of the key changes that's happened to the federal resume over the last 2 years. So in 2025, that was the introduction to the two-page resume option for certain announcements. Keywords, certain announcements. When I first heard this, I was thinking it was for everything. So I was, I'm listening to my peers. I'm like, are we still getting the full-length resumes, or are we getting these new two-page versions? Because I was starting to get some of these two-page versions, and it was cutting people's skills completely out of it because they minimizing so much and they're not preparing themselves well. And I was like, this can be a train wreck. So I was like, is this the new way forward? And then I learned that, hey, this is only for, and it's only used for best direct hire. They're used for best direct hire, STEM jobs, cybersecurity, IT positions, and medical roles. Those are the only ones that you want to. Let me go back to that. That you want to make sure you have that two-page resume. So it's important, and that's why we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you an example of a two-page resume, and I'm also going to show you the standard federal resume that you should have. You should have both of them on standby so that you can make adjustments to both of them depending on the job announcement that you're applying for. The traditional 4 to 7 page resume is still required for most competitive jobs. Like I said just a few seconds ago, you want to maintain at least two versions: the full federal resume, and you want to have the two-page condensed version so that you have them on the ready, so that when you find that announcement that you want, you just want to go up and make sure it falls into the job description, and you want to make sure that your resume reflects that job announcement. And then HR scoring differences. Two-page resumes review can be faster, but they're also riskier. You got to remember, when I'm reviewing resumes, I'm looking to make sure that it matches up with the job skills that we're looking for. And a lot of times we make mistakes of only just cutting and pasting something we've previously had on there and not focusing on the job that we're applying for. You have to look at the role that you're applying for, look at what they say your responsibilities are, and then you have to make sure that those keywords are written within your federal resume for a recruiter, for it to even make it to a recruiter. So that's really important to kind of understand how to navigate around USA jobs, and then also make sure you got the right resume and have your competitive resume ready when you're ready to apply. So it's always a good thing to maintain two versions. Excuse me. And like I said, you always got to remember that's that two-page version. You got to make sure it's really a really good two-page version that speaks volumes of what the position you're applying for. Because if not, then the recruiter's just going to put it to the next, or we probably won't even get to that point because they have screening things in place that catch resumes that do not fit what they're looking for. So let's go over what we're going to talk about today. I'm gonna make sure you have the training objectives for today is to understand the federal resume requirements, the new ones that have changed. Learn about specialized experience formula. That's how you break down your detail. I mean, your actual experience. I want to be able to show you a technique that we use to determine whether or not you have that specialized experience. Know when to use the two-page versus the traditional resume. Avoid common mistakes. We're going to talk about a lot of common mistakes people typically make. And then I want to talk about how you can apply your veteran's preference correctly. If we have veterans online that are interested in learning about that additional information. So let's get into it. What is a federal resume? I'm going to show you some examples when we get done at the end of this. I have two new examples of what should be on there. You want to make sure, like I said before, a federal resume is a specialized, highly detailed resume format required to apply on USA jobs. If you don't have this type of format or resume, no matter how many positions you apply for on US jobs, you're never going to get a call back. So it's important when you start getting to that point where you starting to get people to call you back, that's because your resume is getting better and you getting better at improving your resume. And little workshops like this is going to only add value to you if you just take what you need out of each one of them and make your product better. Unlike the private sector resumes that are typically 1 to 2 pages long, you want to make sure that you have that standard 4 to 7 pages, which breaks down in detail all your relevant experience. or you want to have that shortened version that's specialized towards those programs I told you that that resume only applies to. Key characteristics on a federal resume that they should always have, and this is where a lot of what I've seen a lot of mistakes come from, is not giving enough information because you feel like you're losing your negotiation power. Well, if you don't have the information on there for me to want to extend the invitation for you to interview, then I'm going to move on to the next person that's provided me that same information. Detailed employment information, job title, understanding how to convert your military job title into a civilian job title. Just because you were leading a bunch of recruiters don't mean that you were the director of recruiting. So you need to have quantifiable data that shows that you've been leading at that position, and and you have that experience of that title. Just assuming that just because they told you that on your evaluation that you were in that role, that's the role you fill, that's not enough for you to qualify for a position. You have to have years of experience working at these levels and being able to show that on paper. And that's the difference between a private sector resume. A private sector resume is just to get you an interview. A federal resume is to see if you even have the qualifications before they even interview you. So that's food for thought. Dates of employment, hours per week that you work. You know, when you're in the military, you're not even thinking about those hours a week because we just work until we told to go home. But that quantifiable data is really important. Your salary, you know, you got to be able to figure out how to equate your how to convert your military salary into a federal salary, and make sure that you're not cheating yourself. I mean, it's okay to put your supervisor's name and contact information on there. A lot of times, and you're going to see an example I listed it right there on the resume. A lot of times people say, contact me if you want references or whatever the case may be. Well, if they want to make a quick call and they really interested in you, if you're going to put someone on your resume, make sure they're going to speak kindly about you. Make sure they're going to speak in a professional, be able to talk about have a professional conversation about who you are, not just a friend or a person that knows you well. Make sure that whoever you're listing as references is somebody that's going to give you an opportunity to get the job. Comprehensive job duties, you know, breaking your job detail down, descriptions, quantifiable results. Like I said, is really important. Tailor your job announcement. That is the most important thing I can tell you right now that a lot of people make the mistake of, is just seeing a position, a standard position like applying for a medical position, but then only putting your experience and not looking at the job announcement and seeing what the requirements are to hold the position, and then taking those job requirements and putting them into your resume, into your own words. That is the way you go and make sure that your resume is reflective of the position you're being hired for. Educational details, full degree information, dates, relevant coursework. That's additional experience that you haven't even thought about putting on your federal resume that's going to help you in addition to your regularly employed experience. Additional sections, certifications, training, awards, honors, volunteer experience. You know, like Hank said, I'm working with Peace Corps right now. That's a paid volunteer opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to gain language training, gain leadership training, and to bridge the gap. So you want to make sure that those experiences are listed on your resume, and including your security clearance, because if they don't have to pay for you to get a security clearance, it's just going to only speed up the process of your hiring process. So those are all good food for thought. So now let's get into this specialized experience explained. All right. I tried to break it down as simple as possible so that you understood how to take the data that I'm giving you and transfer that to your resume. Duties that prove, the definition of specialized experience is duties that prove you meet the job requirements. As I mentioned before, you may be leading a few people and you calling yourself the director. You have to be able to show quantifiably why you were the director. So that formula is your action verb plus what you were doing, how you did it, why you did it, and then the scope of your responsibilities. So an example of that, if you was an IT worker, configured, that's your action verb, right? And maintained 150 plus network devices, ensuring 99% uptime. That is a quantifiable data that I can take and say, this is what was going on, or this is what happened, this is what happened, how it happened, and this is why it happened, and this is his or her responsibilities. Same thing with HR, manage recruitment for 25 positions annually, reduce time to hire by 20%. Another example for finance, analyze $45 million budget, ensuring FAR compliance and zero audit findings. Normally, I don't recommend putting acronyms in there, making sure that you explain all acronyms. But if you're applying for a certain position that use those types of acronyms, as us as recruiters, we understand how to go through that and decipher those information. But if it's something that's unique to your organization, please make sure you express and you explain what those acronyms are versus just assuming that we know what they are. That's all important information. So that's an example how you want to use your specialized experience on your resume. All of your bullets should be broken down into this format to add more of a wow factor about who you are. So I'm going to give you an example of a resume just on the top portion, just so you can see how it looks. And I know it's kind of small. It's going to be in there. And like I said, I'm going to show you an extended version of this at the end of this training. But for right now, I just wanted to show it to you. So the federal resume example, GS-12 level sample. You got your name, where you come from, your email address. Please have a professional email address. I've seen people use their personal email addresses, and a lot of times it's not a professional email address. Make sure it has your first, last name, or whatever the case in it, or make sure it's nothing that's going to be something that's going to be disrespectful. Make sure it's a respectable email address that you're putting on your resume, because this is a professional resume. U.S. citizen, you're applying for a government position. All of them require that most of them require that you be a U.S. citizen in order to be employed. Veterans preference, you want to put that on here. Active security clearance. These are all additional information that I see resumes and people leave this information off and they have to answer additional questions to be able to provide it. This is where you want to make sure you put it on there so that they have as much information as possible so they can see who you are on paper so that they want to extend the interview invitation for you to interview based off of who you say you are on paper. And you have to be able to do a very good job of explaining that and why you deserve to have this position. Then break down your work experiences. I gave an example of a program analyst, and then the salary that they held and the position they held, the work hours, supervisor. That's another little key thing that I've been seeing that people haven't been doing, but I'm starting to see more people do now. Putting your supervisor's information on here and then letting them know, hey, you can contact them. You don't have anything to hide. And then, like I said before, the data has to speak. It has to be quantifiable data. It's got to be something that's going to show that you not only knew how to do your job, but you had great results in doing your job. So you're going to see a lot of numbers when you look at a good resume. You want to see a lot of numbers. You want to see a lot of results to show you know how to lead and also manage. That's the key words that you're looking for. So that's a very good example. Like I said, I'll just leave it up here for another second so you can kind of see it. Pretty self-explanatory. If you've seen one of these before, then great. If you haven't, I would recommend that you take yours and try to emulate this. And then, like I said, most importantly, you want to make sure that it emulates the position that you're applying for. So let's get into quantification, which equals higher score, right? How do you break your data down to where it's important? Like I said before, always include numbers, dollar amounts, volume, frequency, always important. When they see that quantifiable data, they know that, okay, this person know how to break things down and they know how to explain who they are and what they represent. Mention tools, systems, regulations. It's okay to put the systems that you use, the tools, because they may use the same systems. So showing knowledge of those systems is only going to make things better for you. An example, review 1,200 plus procurement actions annually, ensuring FAR compliance. So that shows you have an understanding of different compliances and different rules and regulations, and it shows that you're responding and you're writing a resume at the level of which they want to hire you for. So it's always important to understand why it's important that your resume need to reflect that type of data. So let's talk about this 2-page resume update a little bit more so that we can give it, because once it came out, everybody thought that this was going to be the new version. So people went on and wasn't really paying attention to what the actual job announcements were saying, and they were just submitting these 2-page resumes, and they wasn't getting any callbacks. And it was like, well, why am I not getting any callbacks? Why am I not getting any callbacks? Because this resume, the position you applied for required you to have a full federal resume, the 4 to 7 page, not the 2-page version. This 2-page version is only for direct hire positions, and I'm repeating it again: direct hire positions, STEM positions, IT positions, and medical positions. All other positions need to make sure that you're submitting a full 4 to 7 page federal resume, which details your full experiences. This is not a replacement for the traditional resume in most cases. So you have to know which case you're using it for and which case you're not using it for. The 2-page is also best for higher positions. So when you're going for, higher GS positions, GS 11 and above, normally, like I said, the 13 plus is definitely the sweet spot, what you're looking for. That's because they already kind of understand what they're looking for. And then once you have it on there, all you're doing is showing the specialized skills that pertain to that position. So GS 13 plus positions, senior roles, and resume based hiring. You want to make sure that you're using the 2-page ones for that one. Excuse me. And when unsure, use the traditional format. That's always important. If you're not sure, it's all right to go and use the original because that's going to encompass the 2 pages anyway. But if you submit the 2-page and it should have been the 7-page, you're not going to get a call back, and it's just going to put you in a situation where you're applying to multiple positions and you're wasting your time. So if you want to get your return on investment, you want to make sure you have at least 2 resumes. Like I said, the 2-page one and then the 4 to 7-page one, and you want to make sure it reflects the job announcement that you're applying for. Let's go over veterans guidance. They haven't really changed, but a lot of times it's kind of unclear what you need to submit. There are a lot of questions and different stuff that you need to check the box for, but you just need to make sure you upload your DD-214 if you have it. Your SF-15 is another document you can get online. Your VA disability letter, if claiming a preference, you want to make sure you upload that. You want to make sure they have the required documents to prove if you're using the veteran's preference. Veteran's preference is extremely important because it could put you in a room where previous to that veteran's preference, you probably wouldn't have been invited in, but your veteran's preference have placed you there. So it's really important that you utilize a benefit that you've earned. So make sure that you are doing it correctly so that you can reap the benefits of your service. Translate your military experience into civilian language. We have everything now. We have AI at our disposal. We have people we can reach out to. We have all these federal resume companies that are available now that can help translate your military experience. It's not as simple as going back and taking your SMART transcript and taking your old evaluations and taking that data and transferring it to civilian language. You need to make sure that one is written into like the job announcement and it's quantifiable data, and you taking your experience and you're not one downplaying who you are, and you're giving yourself enough credit for your position, but you're not shooting too far to where you claiming a position that in civilian terms you wouldn't be at that level. You're more of a lower level management position, but in the military you were wearing a title that represented something higher, but it doesn't equate to the civilian sector. You need to make sure that it balances and it shows and it's equatable to what the position that they're hiring you for. Show GS equivalency clearly with leadership and complexity examples. Show examples of why you feel you're at that level. And like that quantifiable data is extremely important, and you don't want to leave that out. You want to make sure that you're reaping the benefits that you've earned, and you want to make sure that all of that work you put into it, no matter how minute it was, that you're able to explain what you were doing, because there are a lot of tangible things that we were doing in the military, doing your military service, that you can translate into civilian sectors. That's going to give you a lot of experience that you haven't even thought about before. But they all can be for various different jobs. Not all of them are going to go for the one position you're applying for. So make sure that they all are reflective of the job that you're applying for. Common mistakes to avoid. And I do I do apologize for all the coughing. I just got over a sickness. So common mistakes you want to avoid: using the private sector resume format is one mistake I've always seen people doing, sending in that 1 or 2 page standard resume that don't have anything. It doesn't really get into who your experience levels and stuff is. You want to make sure you're not doing that. Missing hours or week or supervisor information. Like I showed you before, that is extremely important to put on there. That way they can reach out to those individuals and they see you're not really trying to hide anything, that you don't have a problem having somebody clarify the exact same that you're putting on your resume. It just confirms everything that you're saying. Not matching specialized experience. I told you specialized training is really important, making sure that you're using that specialized experience and that quantification when you're developing your resume. Copy pasting without customization. It's been so easy just to take what we've had in the past and just convert it to another resume for every position we're applying to, not realizing that it needs to be unique to that position and that job announcement. So stop copying and pasting, make sure that everything that you put on your resume, you customize it to the position that you're applying to. Using vague phrases like responsible for. They take that out of your vocabulary. That's something that goes into your evaluation. Responsible for this. You want to use those key terms like like I gave you examples before, and I'll show you some additional examples in the next when I show you the actual federal resume at the end of this training. Final checklist for 2026, match announcement languages. Go to USA Jobs, and when you look into that position on the left-hand side of the screen, and you're going into that position, go look and make sure that those announcements are similar to what your resume is, or you have those skill sets. Include specialized experience and quantification. I've been talking about that throughout this whole training, so make sure you take that as a key point. You want to break down your specialized experiences, and you make sure you quantify your data to make sure it's reflective of who you are so that they know who they're hiring. Correct resume length for the announcement, whether it's the 2-page or the 4 to 7 page. Make sure you have both at the ready so that you're able to have either one to just make your adjustments on and apply for the position as early as possible. All requirements completed in the fields completed. It's multiple steps you're gonna have to complete on USA Jobs. Make sure you don't leave anything out. You got to do that assessment, questionnaire. That's another one you want to make sure that you're not cheating yourself and you're not giving yourself low scores because you're trying to support the honor system. You need to make sure that hey, if you're doing this at this maximum level, that you representing that. Don't undercut who you are, because if you do, you're not even going to make it past that assessment and get to an interview process. They're going to tell you you're not one of the highly competitive individuals applying for these positions. Veteran documents uploaded and applicable, if applicable. Make sure you got all of your documents on the ready, your SF-15. If you have previous employment from another organization, your SF-50. Making sure you have your DD-214 available. Those are all important documents that you need to make sure that you have at the ready. Pro tips for 2026: maintain 2 full versions, the full federal resume, like I said, the 2-page condensed version. Have both. Decide per announcement, not preference. Decide per announcement, not preference. Follow the specific requirements listed on the job announcement rather than using your personal preference or your generic resume format. Make sure your resume is based off of the position you're applying for. Never assume shorter equals better. So just because you're making it shorter doesn't mean that it's better, and vice versa. Just because it's 7 pages long doesn't mean it's better than someone that's submitting a 4-page. Just make sure whatever you put in there is valuable to who you are and what you represent, and gives you an opportunity to get an interview. Include data, literacy, compliance, and collaboration skills, volunteer service. All that stuff is very important to make sure that you understand the resume process and you understand the position that you're being hired for. So before I get to the questions and open up the floor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this one. I'm going to show you an example of a federal resume. Did you have something for me, Hank, before I go into this one? All right. So let's go into the first resume. Let's see. All right, Hank, can you see that? Give me a thumbs up. I think we can see that one.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, so this is going to be the shorter version, right? This is the one I told you that you got to be really careful with, because you basically taking your full length version and you condensing it down. So you want to only take the key stuff if you're applying for those positions I told you for. You only want to make sure that it's reflective of those positions that you're applying for, and it hits home with everything that they're looking for. So summary of qualifications. Federal program analysis with 10 plus years experience in policy analysis, grants management, interagency coordination, proven record of reducing audit findings by 40%, reallocating 600,000 to high impact programs and leading cross-functional teams to improve efficiency by 18%. That's an impact statement coming right into your resume. Now you're getting into your relevant experience that's for the position that you're applying for. Make sure that you're using quantifiable numbers. And like I said, you're breaking down your skills. And put your supervisor's information on that so they can reach out to them. All this stuff is stuff that you want to make sure that's going to give you a competitive 2-page resume. So I'm just going to scroll down so you can see it. Let it sit here for a second. And then I'll pull up the full resume so you can see that one also. These are both will be available for you for Hank to send out, so you can use them as templates if you want to build off of them. But these are just additional tools for your bag. Like, is this the end all be all to, am I saying that when you use this, you're going to get hired 100%? No, I'm telling you, this is just additional information to make you more competitive. So that's pretty much the short version. Now let's go into the next version that we have available. This is our full length version right here. So as you can see, it's expanded out more on the top part. Security clearances, all the stuff that you think about, targeted to the position. You want to. It's okay sometimes. I've seen people do this before, and that's why I put this here because I think it's a good tool. It put the position down that you were applying for, so that you know what you were targeting, so that you always keep the eye on the prize that this is the position I want. It's all right to go in there and call it how you see it. Summary of the qualifications, break them down, quantifiable data, numbers, making sure you got a strong opening, you're using the right words, not responsible for it. None of that is going to be in here. Core competencies. This is what you did. See, that's the difference. You have your target position, you have your summary of qualifications, right? These are what you qualify for. Your core competencies is another phase that you can have an impact and talk about the different things that you skill sets that you have as far as different projects and different things, the other things that you've been trained on. That's one you want to listen. Your personal experience. You want to get into that and break that down. Duties. What your job was. What were your duties when you were there? And then it's another part that a lot of people are not putting on their resume. Your key accomplishments. You did all this work up here, but what were the successes and what were the failures out of all this work you did? And you see how it's quantified by numbers. Accuracy of 12%, increased by 20%. It shows that everything you've been doing has been successful for the organization that you've previously worked for. Getting into it and breaking all of this stuff down is very important. So it's always a key to do that. And especially when it comes to training and you listen to your education. A lot of times we just put graduated from this university, Western Governors University, but we don't talk about our GPA. We don't talk about, relevant coursework that we've done while we was doing that, especially the coursework that's relevant, like I said, is relevant to the position that you're applying for. So that's another opportunity for you to show that you have the education background and support the position you're applying for. So putting that on here is just only going to make you more competitive for the position. Training, there are certifications and training available all online. Going in LinkedIn, going to these different platforms and completing these certifications is always going to make you more competitive. So if you got downtime or if your organization is providing these courses for you, take them and make sure that you're putting them on your resume. Different technical skills. That's talking about like Microsoft Word and AI is big now. So making sure that you understand that, leaning into Lean Six Sigma and all these other different types of programs is extremely important at this time. You want to make sure you're doing it. And then also volunteer work. What are you doing in your off time? A lot of times we just put in work, 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 work. We're not talking to people about, I'm also doing this too. I'm also mentoring individuals within my community. I'm also volunteering and supporting my local community. You want to show that because it shows that you're not just focused on work, you also focus on community too. And every little bit helps. And that's the difference between you and Hank getting in a position. Then you want to make sure that that's what's going to separate you. So it's never too much information. Just make sure that the information you're putting on here is quality information. Side projects that you've done, capstones, anything like that, DoD frameworks, things that you've done that's impacted on a larger scale. You want to make sure you're doing that. And then all of the awards and recognition that you've earned from the work that you've done is in school, Dean's List, Magnum Cum Laude, all of that stuff is really important. And then references upon availability. You want to make sure that, hey, if I want to put my supervisor in there, but also when you're ready to move forward in this, I got plenty of people that's ready to talk about how amazing I am. So make sure you have that on there. So like I said, this is pretty much the standard resume, and now it's not built out as full as it should be because, like I said, I only use this as an example. This is the same example you can take, but you can take yours and use the same template and expand it out to where it'd be a really competitive resume. And with that being said, I'm going to stop the presentation there. The last slide that I had on there was actual my information with my email address and my contact information on there. But I can always put that in the chat so you'll have that available anytime you got any additional questions or you want to apply for Peace Corps. So with that, Hank, I'll turn it back over to you and we can start answering some of these questions.
All right, great. Hey, thank you again, Claudale. That was a great overview of a federal resume. I know there's a lot of changes that came in the past couple of years about what it looks like, what a federal resume looks like. So I appreciate you for sharing that with us. Now we are going to open the floor for questions. If you have a question, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat. Or if you would like to come off mute, you can use the raise hand function and we'll give you the opportunity to do so. I'm going to take a second here just to plug in. We do have a survey. I'll drop it in the chat. Please give us some feedback of what you thought about the session itself. If it's a session that you would like to have more in the future, or I'm going to depth about what it is to actually write a resume or need some assistance, we'll definitely like to provide those opportunities and those type of sessions for you. So we do have one question in the chat from Crystal. How can I leverage my military spouse status if my spouse is a veteran? When I researched this, it seems like a military spouse is reserved for active duty only. Do you have any advice for that?
It can be challenging because you're not the veteran, but you're just as important as the veteran because you're the support system for that veteran. And I know they had a bunch of incentives that came out over the last couple of years, helping family members of veterans become more competitive in the job market. So you got to look for those initiatives that are out there. Programs like Dave and some of these other organizations are very good of supporting supporting spouses and supporting significant others to make sure that their position in the home is reflective of change and stuff like that, because you guys are always moving and relocating and having to sacrifice for family and sacrifice for the veteran because the veteran is out. So making sure that you're networking with some of these organizations that can support you. They always have programs that are available that are spouse-friendly programs that they can help you with. And then a lot of times marketing, if you look for those types of positions, they can help you with in understanding how to find a position that are out there for veterans family members. So there are websites and organizations that support those support veterans family members. You just need to be able to locate those individuals and see what type of support they have available for you. And then, like I said, the last one is on base. You go to the community service center. I mean, go over to the community center where they have where the veterans go for employment. They have a segment in there that they can support you for spouses too. So they should be able to support family members in there too. So going on base and going over to the employment offices that they have on military installations to help you out with help veterans out. They'll still extend that same service to their family members also.
Great. That's some great advice there. And I'm also going to plug in a couple additional details in that. So we on USA Jobs, if you look, there is a military spouse filter that you can filter in there. So that might be something that you can click on and take advantage of those opportunities that are featured there. And we also are one of our employer partners, Hire Heroes USA. They do an extremely great work with our military spouses and would be able to provide you some direction and some opportunities that they do have. So both of them are great resources for you to utilize. And I'll definitely reach out and share those with you as well, Crystal. All right, great. So we have another question in the chat from Krista. When applying for a non-government job, is it best to just put the job history that only applies to the job being applied for? If so, how should those gaps be filled in?
So a non-government, so not applying on USA Jobs. Is that what we're talking about?
Um, I'll give her
So
a second.
not applying on not applying for a federal job. You want
Correct.
to make sure that's a lot different because when you're not applying for a federal job, it's completely different. Federal jobs, the hiring process is really extensive. In the private sector, and I have some experience in the private sector, your resume is only to get you to the interview. So only put the relevant information you need to get to an interview because the interview is where they base their hiring off of. So you don't need to have an extensive resume in the private sector because all they're looking for is do you meet the minimum requirements, and is this a person I would like to interview to see if they're a person I would like to hire for my team. So it's actually easier to apply for non-federal positions because the requirements are not the same. You just need a basic resume that just speaks about your relevant experience, and that's just to get your foot in the door so you can get the interview. And I hope that answers the question because that's the biggest difference. The federal side of it is an extensive hiring process, and they have to go through all those. They have to make sure you have the relevant experience to qualify for the position because of the extent of the hiring process. In the private sector, it's about volume. It's about let's see how many resumes we have to look for the relevant experience. And out of this 100 resumes we have, what are the top, top 10%? Let's get the top 10% or the top 5%, and those are the individuals you're going to bring in to interview. So how do you differentiate whether you're that top 5% or top 10%? The only way to be able to do that is to make sure that you understand what the position is you're being hired for, but it's not the same as the federal side. It's a lot easier to me personally because you should be able just to look and see what they're looking for and mirror your experiences up to that enough to where you can be able to explain it when you get in to have an interview. On the federal side, you're not even getting a chance to explain your resume because they're not even extending an interview for you because they want to see all of the experience up front. On the private sector side, they just want to see the key relevant experience, and then they're going to bring you in, interview you, and then see what else you have to offer based off of a face-to-face interview.
Great. Right. Crystal says thanks. Like the military spouse info. All right. Do we have any other questions? We have a few minutes before we wrap up the session. Definitely wanted to make sure that we answer any questions while we have Claudale here. Again, this session is recorded. You will receive a copy of the recording along with our survey to your email. And I will also share Claudale's contact information. So if you have any additional questions outside of the recording, or if you think about those after the session, you can definitely reach out, but also including the PowerPoint with some of those examples as well. So another question we just have, I will be applying for a position for a federal job that I have no experience for, which is also not needed to have. How do I approach that?
Well, that's pretty difficult to answer. I think you pretty much answered it by saying it like that. With all due respect, I mean, if you're applying for a position you don't have experience for, you're just looking for a shot in the dark. But anytime, a lot of times, it's about getting in front of a person to show who you are. Sometimes, no matter who you are, in our head, we never going to completely qualify for a position, or sometimes we think we overly qualify for a position. It's about knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. So just make sure you have as much information on there as possible. If you get an opportunity to interview, just go in and put your best foot forward and explaining who you are and what your experiences are. You have to start somewhere, right? Not everybody's going to come right out of college with work experience because in college everything is a theory. It's about learning how to do the job. It's not a lot of application. So you're not going to have that. So if you don't have the application part of it, just try to put as much theory down there so that they know at least you have the training part of it down and you've been taught how to do it. You just need to be able to go in and show that you know how to be able to do it.
That's some great advice there. And I know with a lot of people, job seekers out there, if they don't have experience in that particular field, it's a great opportunity just to get some like you mentioned before, volunteer experience definitely is something that you can add to your resume to give you a leg up there.
Yeah, and you tell Tony I saw that question he had. If he want to send any of them, anybody that's on this call, if you want to send me over your resume and have me look at it or whatever, have me work with it, I have plenty of time off the clock that I can do that, and I will make sure I do that for you because it's not like I'm doing you a favor. I just want to see as many people succeed as possible. So if you got my email address and you want to send me your resume and you want me to look at it over for you, I'll take the time to give you the same professional courtesy I do to all of my individuals that are applying for Peace Corps. And I won't sell you on Peace Corps, I promise. I'll just go through and look at your resume and I give you my honest professional opinion on whether or not it's competitive or not for the position. I'll take that time for you to go to the job announcement and do that work with you so that you're more competitive for the position you're applying for because we have to be able to take care of each other if we want people to succeed. And that's the only reason we're here. And thank you for Western Governors University for providing individuals like me this platform to share this wisdom and make myself available to you so that we can help. I'm not out here trying to charge you any money, anything like that. If you need the support, I want to be here to support you. So send it over to me. I'll get it back to you in a timely fashion, and I'll give you my professional opinion off of the hundreds of resumes I review on a weekly basis, how professional it is and how competitive you'll be based off of the position you're applying for.
Hey, thank you for that. That is awesome. Really appreciate you for um, giving some additional help outside of this session. So I will also, like I mentioned, I'll also include that in that wrap up email. So if anyone has any questions, they can definitely reach out to you after that. So we do got some thank yous in the chat. So definitely that's something that is really appreciated. I can tell from our audience today. All right. Do we have any other questions while we have Claudel here? I have a few more minutes before we wrap up. Um, Definitely want to give you the time since we do have the floor. If any questions about your resume or applying for a government job, or even just if you have questions about the Peace Corps, definitely use this time to ask those questions. I'll keep it open for another minute or two before we wrap up. So while we are waiting for any additional questions, just want to let you know, Claudel, I really appreciate you for joining us again. You are always a pleasure just to talk to, give me personally some advice of what's going on in the world outside in the career world, and especially from your perspective. Definitely is a benefit to have you here, and we definitely appreciate you for always joining us.
No, thank you. I really appreciate the invite, and I'll come back anytime you have me.
Right. Is there any other additional questions? I would like to give you the opportunity to speak if you have anything else you would like to say while we wrap it up.
I don't have anything else. Thank you for your time, and hopefully this helps. And like I said, if you need any support, please feel free to reach out to me.
That is great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for another great career service, another great session with our career professional development department. We enjoyed having Claudel here and giving us some great insight from his perspective, and always a great opportunity to hear Navy veterans sharing his perspective on how military veterans can apply for federal jobs. Be on the lookout for that email along with that survey and all additional career services events that we do have. We have a few others coming up this month, and we would look forward to having you attend those sessions. Thank you, everybody, for joining today, and have a great evening.